Welcome to Slasher Sundays. Don't go in the house. Well, I listened to the title of this film and I decided to not go in the house and to do this outside. I live in a beautiful area. It is so nice out right now. I couldn't resist. So I am in the middle of a park. You can see I'm on a baseball diamond right now. There's got a pitcher's mound behind me. The sun is out. It's nice and warm. Beautiful scenery. The air is nice and fresh. So let's get into some murder, death, horror, darkness. This one is for my brother Nathan. This movie scares the shit out of him. I love that. It makes me laugh. There's something about this movie that just gets to him. And I like to randomly send him pictures from this movie or just the title. I can literally just send him a text that says, "Don't go in the house." And he'll write me back like, "Fuck you." Because for some reason, this movie just gets into his head. And I sent him some pictures of this movie last night while I was watching it. And I just got a straight back like, "Fuck you. I was trying to go to sleep. Thanks. Now I can't." Now, this movie is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. This copy that I have, I've been waiting for like a proper Blu-ray release, but I have just found a Blu-ray copy that is on this website. I don't know how legit it is, but when I was reading through it, it said it was a HD transfer that they scanned the original negative of the film, and it has like commentary by the actor and all this stuff. So I was like, shit, this seems legit. So I think I'm gonna bite the bullet and pick it up. It's like $27, but this is one of my favorite slasher films of the late 70s. This is pre-80s. I mean, this isn't even a slasher from the 80s. This is a slasher from the late 70s. And it is inspired by Psycho, no doubt about it. But there's so much more going on here as well to make it its own thing. So calling it like a Psycho ripoff, I just don't agree at all. I have the poster of this film framed on my wall, so I am a big fan of this film. So let's get into Don't Go in the House or Donny Will Burn You Alive. I think that the first thing anyone's going to remember from this movie is going to be Donny's outfit that he wears and the weapon of choice that he has. He has an asbestos suit on that he picks up from like a sporting goods place. And he has a flamethrower that he burns people alive in his metal flame-proof, fireproof room that he builds in one of the rooms in his mom's house. Donny is such an interesting character to me. I mean, we rarely get slasher movies where we focus completely on the protagonist of the film, but he's also a fairly sympathetic character, because as we start to get flashbacks of his childhood, we see that he was, horribly abused and scarred both physically and mentally by his mother. His mother thought that she had him in sin. She thinks that sex is a dirty act, like in Carrie. And when he came out, he was just filled with sin, and everything that he said or he did, she had to try to burn the sin out of him. And, we see later in the movie, when the movie opens, that a guy catches on fire, and Donny does nothing to help him because he believes that if there's no sin in you, you can't burn. And when the guy comes up to him and calls him a faggot, and he's like, "I'm not a faggot." Dialogue like this is funny to me because it's just, we live in such sensitive times now. I just feel like, I don't know, you wouldn't even write that kind of stuff now. I am fine with it. I don't know. Watching this stuff, it always just reminds me of what a lame PC world that we live in now. But he says that, and he's just like, he wasn't evil, but the flame covered him up anyway. Like, he is so convinced because of his mother that, you can't burn if you're not bad. Like, and I don't know. There's something about Donny's character in this he's so childish. Like, when he comes home and he finds his mother dead. Like his initial reaction to that, after he starts hearing this little voice in his head, is to just like run over and to play his records loud and jump on the furniture and smoke a cigarette and take the cigarette and put it out on his mother's stuff. Like, he wants to be rebellious, and he wants to be a kid, and he wants to, have fun and do what he wants to do. And even later in the movie, he goes and he finds out that his friend's going to a disco club, and he doesn't even know what to do. He's just so lost because he has no guidance. And he goes into the clothing store and he talks to the guy, and you can tell he just has no opinion. He's had everything told to him his whole life by his mother. He tells him, like, he asks the guy, like, well, do you think this one's good? And what do you think? And, okay, well, if you think this is good, I'll take it. Like, he has no ability to think for himself. And it's very sad. And he goes and he has these women that he looks at, and I'm sure he finds them attractive, much like Psycho, and I get the comparisons to Psycho. They are absolutely warranted. But he sees these women, and it's almost like his thoughts are naughty, so he thinks they are, and he's going to burn them to see if they are evil. And when they light on fire, he's cleansing them. But then he keeps them in his place because they are now cleansed of their sin, and that they can live with him, and he's helped them. Like his grandmother helped him by holding his arms over the fire and burning the sin out of him. So I really feel terrible for this guy. I mean, does that, condone his actions? Absolutely not. I'm not saying like, oh, well, I forgive him and he's an okay guy. No, absolutely not. Of course not. But I do have to sympathize because this guy is mentally wrecked. His mother just destroyed any kind of rational thinking that this guy has. Anyway, the room that he builds is terrifying. Like, these girls wake up completely naked, chained to the ceiling. It actually kind of reminds me of Saw 3, when the guy goes in there and the girl's chained to the wall naked, and the water keeps spraying on her, and it's super cold in there, it's freezing. It's basically that scene, but the exact opposite. To add insult to injury, he freaking douses them in gasoline before he hits them with a flamethrower. I'm just sitting there like, I'm pretty sure the flamethrower would be enough to light them on fire. And the first victim he has, she only gets in his car because she's afraid of these thugs that are out there, and he's the one that made her miss the bus that night. Like, she's like, no, I gotta go, and he plays this sympathy card with her, and she gives into it, and so she helps him out. And I think that's, I've always said this, but like, I have the hardest time in any movie, in any scenario, life or in fiction, where someone takes advantage of someone's trust. Like, I don't know what it is about that. It just irks me the wrong way. Like, this girl trusted him to let him in, trusted him that his mother was actually sick. She was wanting to do a good thing. Then she misses her bus because of it, runs outside, and there's these hoodlums out there, catcalling at her and saying shit to her, and she's just like feeling scared. She doesn't know what the hell to do, and this guy pulls up who she seemingly wants to trust because she has some interactions with him that prove that he's at least saying that he's a good guy, that he would be a guy that would take care of his sick mother and get her flowers and beg to do so. So she trusts him and get in the car, and then he begs her to come in the house, and she does that, and then he fucking just, he burns her, literally. So, I don't know, as much as I hate that kind of stuff, it also adds to the, fucked up nature of this film. I think it's such an evil film. Donnie's character is such a fucking vile, villainous piece of shit, but as I said, I have sympathy for him as well. And the house. Oh, the house. This is why I want it in Blu-ray, because I really want to see this house in all its glory. It is such a creepy looking house. The way it's shot, like the way it's framed, it's awesome. I love the house. I wish we would have got a couple more shots of it. Every time I see it, it's just eerie. And, oh, man, it's hot. It's burning me up. And I like how when he's burning them in that room and their whole bodies are on fire, which is actually a pretty damn cool effect for 1979 low-budget effects. Like the fact that there's a naked chick right there and they somehow get her body to look like it's on fire. It doesn't look that fake. I'm pretty surprised by how good it looks. But also that there's no smoke. Like when he's in that room, there's no filtration. There's no chimney or anything to let the smoke out. And when they show him, there's like no smoke around him at all. And I'm like, yeah, that chick would be smoking. And he gets so desperate for a kill after his first two. And the second girl that he goes to kill, it's quick, man. Like he sees her pick her up. Like he gets better at it the second time. Like he goes to pick this girl up and she's just like, yeah, okay, I'll come. And boom, we just see her burnt body up there. Like it is such a quick transition. And he gets so desperate for his next kill that he becomes overly pushy. And he's just like sitting in front of her and he's in the grocery store, like this little mini mart kind of place. And he's just like, well, you sure you want to come with me? And he's like blocking her way. He's like so desperate. But then weirdly, it cuts to the next scene and he's introducing a new victim to the other dead burnt bodies in his room. So are they suggesting he did end up getting that girl? Because I don't know. That was an interesting cut to me, because I was sitting there like, it didn't seem like this girl was going to have anything to do with him, and somehow he got her back to his house, and we didn't even see any of it. I'm guessing that was supposed to be her, but I'm not sure how he pulled it off. And the scene that scares the shit out of my brother, and one of the best scenes in the movie. It happens a couple times, but it's the first time he sees the burnt corpse of his dead mother in the house, like at the top of the stairs, in the mirror. Man, that shit's eerie. I fucking love it. And his facial expressions, I love the performance from the guy who plays Donny in this movie. I love it. His reactions of horror, not a scream, but like a silent scream that just horrified. I love his performance so much in this movie, and the burnt corpses at the top of the stairs and at the end when he's going in the room and they all start standing up from the chairs and coming at him. Adore. I mean, there's nothing I don't love about this movie. I also like how he says that he has seen the devil, and he hears this voice in his head. And at the end of the movie, when he dies, there's another kid who's getting physically abused by his mother, and he starts hearing voices. The same exact voice, actually, because we hear the voice, and it's the exact same voice that Donnie's hearing. So, are we to believe that Donnie was being commanded or influenced by a demonic voice, by a demonic, entity in his head? Because at the end of this movie, it does kind of suggest that voice was real. Or, on the flip side of that, a message to parents not to be dicks and beat their fucking children. But B, that this is how it starts. Like, this is where the voices come from. This is where schizophrenia starts. And I'm not saying that schizophrenia isn't it. I'm not going to get into that kind of discussion here. But all I'm saying is that it makes it seem like the demonic voice in his head ends up being real at the end of the movie. Or that kids at that age are so impressionable that they have similar outcomes depending on, their genetic makeup or whatever that could bring someone to eventually harm another human being. But I liked that ending because it left it open for interpretation for me. And Bobby, his friend Bobby, what a piece of shit. He fucking calls him up and he's like, "Oh, what's going on, buddy?" And he's like hiding it from his wife. He's like, "Yeah, man, I got these 2 girls, and you know what they're into? Oh man, I can't even tell you what they're into. Like, but you just got to meet me out at the disco. Like, I told my wife I got everything locked down. Like, I got everything set up. I'm ready to go. Like, I'm ready to party." What an asshole. And the scene where he goes to the disco and he finds the girl at the public, out in public, and they're dancing, and I completely understand where Donnie's coming from in this scene, because I do not dance for any reason. I fucking despise dancing. I would be up to doing like some classes to learn how to, but I just don't do it. I don't like doing things that I'm not good at, and I'm not good at dancing. So like, I have missed out on many girls in my life because they've come up and they've asked me to dance when I was at some place, and I'm like, nope. And then some other guy goes and dances with them, and they go home with them. I refuse to do it. I will not dance. So I completely understand where he's coming from in that scene. But yeah, Donnie, he freaks out because she's pulling his arms across the thing, like, "Come on with me," and the candle's below, and it feels like it's burning his wrists, and he freaks out, and he pours it on her head, and it lights her head on fire. And her brother chases him down and beats the shit out of him. And then he kicks him. And then I love, too, when he picks up the 2 girls at the end, and he's in the car with them, and he tries to impress them in such a childish way. And he doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's like, "Yeah, I was a Marine. Like, I kicked all 3 of their asses. I was a Marine. I was in the Green Berets." And the girl's like, "Wait, I thought the Green Berets were from the Army." And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's like the Marines. Like, it's like the Green Berets, but it's a special division of the Marines." Like, he's peacocking like a 7th grader, because that's where his mentality is throughout this whole fucking movie. And I don't know, like, I feel for the childish nature of him. He's lucky that fucking brother didn't kill him, though. And I love that at the end when the burn victims get up, because I don't know what his thoughts were towards them. Maybe because he's introducing them around like they're best friends, like, "Hey, meet this new girl. She's part of the family," kind of thing. And at the end, they all stand up and they say, "We hate you. We hate you, Donnie." And that's just like his biggest fear, is being hated by these women. And then when he sees them get up and retaliate against them, like, that's the end of him. He can't handle the hatred. Like, to him, he loves them and he wants them to love him back, and they just do not. They hate him. So anyway, fans of this movie, I am clearly a huge fan. I can't say enough good about it. I completely understand how people think this is schlock or shitty or not, whatever. I think it's extremely underappreciated and was a forgotten slasher of the late 70s, right before the slasher craze started with Friday the 13th. Halloween kind of started the idea, and Friday the 13th capitalized on the slasher craze. It kind of just pushed it into something that everyone wanted to copy and mimic. And this just happened to predate that by about a year. Same thing with something like Tourist Trap. So, which I should be doing soon on this. So anyway, guys, let me know if you watch this, if you haven't seen it before. And let me know if there's any fans out there. I've never heard anyone bring up this movie anywhere, ever. So I'm looking forward to seeing people being like, "Yeah, I love it. I've seen it. I own it, blah, blah, blah." And if you own that Blu-ray, definitely tell me what that transfer is like. I want to know. All right, well, I'm going to soak up the rays and enjoy being outside. Bye, guys.